Welcome to another Cleverdix podcast. In this podcast, we're talking to Gráinne Moss. Gráinne describes herself as an Irish Kiwi. She grew up in Ireland and started her swimming there, but spent some time in Auckland and now lives in Wellington. She was a competitive swimmer in her youth, took some time out for a career and family, and now is getting back into doing some swimming. So we had a talk about some of the swims that she's done and some of the swims that she's looking forward to doing. It was a really great chat. This was a great one. Okay, well, welcome to another Cleverdix podcast. In this podcast, we're talking to Gráinne. Have I pronounced your name correctly?
Yeah, you're pretty close. It's Gráinne Moss. So, well done. That's closer than a lot of other people have.
Okay, Gráinne, thank you. So we normally just start off our podcast by giving you an opportunity to tell everybody about your swim story, what got you into it, what keeps you into it, where have you gone, and then we can dive down into some of your stories.
Sure. I started open water swimming a really, really long time ago, so this introduction might take a while. I was a competitive pool swimmer, but also lived by the sea when I was young. My local swimming club went down every Thursday night to the open air swimming pool called Picky Pool, which was open air, unheated, and in the north of Ireland. So it was pretty chilly even in the summer. But you know what it's like when you're a kid, you're just kind of bulletproof and you're running around in the sea and you're jumping off diving boards there and you're swimming with your mates, and we were doing things like playing water polo and, in this open air pool. And then there was a lot of fun swims. So we just had little small races, and then it turned out I was quite good at them. So so the swims got longer as I got kind of older and taller. And then in 1986, actually, the Irish selectors decided to select me for the first ever open water world swimming championships, which were in 1986 in Lake Windermere in the UK. And the reason I got selected was because they kind of saw that I had promise. So a team of 4 of us went over with family and coaches. And it was actually quite fun because the Irish team went over in kind of borrowed tracksuits and borrowed gear with their mums and their dads and their boyfriends and their girlfriends. And there was 34 other countries there, including the Americans. And the Americans had a head coach, and every swimmer had a coach, and they had all the gear. And they were staying in a 5-star hotel, and their carpet was thicker than the bedroll that I was sleeping on. So it was a real kind of haves and have-nots. We had to fill out this CV, and all these people are filling out this swimming CV. It has all these big long swims on it. And actually, one of the Irish guys said to me, "Oh, Gráinne, I'm going to put down I did the Bermuda Triangle Marathon swim because nobody's ever going to know that I didn't do it." Because we were all seriously intimidated, and we were getting drug tested, and I was 16 at the time. I wouldn't have known a drug if it hit me in the face. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't have known how to get one. So obviously, past that all with flying colours, but it was, it was felt pretty intense. But anyway, I swam really, really well, and I actually finished in the top 10. And I was the youngest competitor. And then all the other swimmers, and some of the greats were there. People like Alison Streeter said to me, "Look, if you can do this," which was 25 kilometers in Lake Windermere, you can swim the English Channel. So I, started to look to see if I could swim the English Channel. And look, at that time, nobody was doing open water swimming. I mean, I couldn't find people to train with. You didn't have the internet back then, so it just shows how old I am. But so you couldn't kind of hop onto a group and find even out about the English Channel. So I had to do things like write letters and make phone calls after 6 o'clock when it was cheap. And actually now, what takes you a couple of minutes or a day or two in terms of reaching out to people took you weeks then. You had to write a letter, then you had to wait until people got back to you. Yeah. But anyway, I ended up getting a pilot and then swimming the English Channel. And then, I just kept swimming. lots of Irish championships. So we had an Irish open water swimming championships, which I very proudly say that I won 7 times. However, I have to say my
Oh,
brother won 10 times. So he reminds me that he's the real Poseidon in the family. He also swam the English Channel a few years after me and did the fastest meal time for the year. So, so he often talks about my very, very slow paddle across the English Channel compared to him, which wasn't actually that slow. So I swam the English Channel in just under 12 hours, but he
wow.
swam it in just about 9. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, the open water swimming was a bit of a family affair. My mum and dad have been actively involved. So I think for 27 years they held nearly every role possible in the Irish Long Distance Swimming Association. So either president or secretary or treasurer. And actually they kept involved in open water swimming in Ireland even when I had emigrated to New Zealand. And then when I emigrated to New Zealand, obviously thought better do the Cook Strait. So I did that in 2001, but then in 2004, I started to have kids and just started to swim, like just the kind of Takapuna Beach series or, small swims around it. I lived in Rotorua for a while in the Blue Lake, but I wasn't doing anything really, really big. And then kids got a bit older and, career-wise, I've had some quite big jobs. So it's been hard to fit all the swimming in. But in 2001, 2021, I thought it's time to get back into it big time. Do you know what I mean? I was still kind of keeping a few swims up. And I started training to do Lake Taupo. And then, so that kind of got me back into the long swims. And then I did FOVO and then I went over and did kind of Catalina and Manhattan and the US and big Hawaii swim and Ireland to Scotland and so I've done Gibraltar. So yeah, from 2021 on, I've had got back into the big long swims. And it's been a lot of fun, and it's really different actually now compared to when I was doing it back in kind of 1987. Um, first of all, you've got trackers these days, so actually people know where you are in the water. It's almost like people can follow
Yeah.
you along. It's almost a spectator sport now, whereas back in 1987, I mean, my poor mother and aunt were marching the streets of Dover and they had no idea whether I was still in the water or not. So the day I got in, 3 swimmers got in and they'd heard that one had got out, but they didn't know which one it was. Um, so and there's so many groups and so many people to train with. I mean, in recent years, I've barely swum a stroke by myself. Whereas when I was training for the English Channel, I couldn't find anybody to swim with. So yeah, that's the kind of
That's a
quick
very
gallop
quick
through.
gallop through a
Yeah.
ton of information there. Yes. Um, what? So that English Channel you said it was 1987, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere there. What were like the biggest differences between that channel crossing versus, for example, Lake Taupo that you did in 2021 from a piloting perspective, a feeding perspective?
Yeah, actually, to be honest, from the piloting perspective, I had a very good pilot in the English Channel back in the day. And I had an excellent pilot on Lake Taupo. I had Philip Rush, who actually I met in 1987, believe it or not. So I was in Dover
Yep.
as a young 17-year-old, and he was in Dover as well. And he did his 3-way a couple of weeks after I did my 1-way. So, I remember actually meeting him, and it's just amazing to think kind of like almost 40 years later, I actually kind of know him really
Yes.
well and see him really frequently. So I think for me, like when I swam the English Channel, I had really no idea what I was doing. Um, and actually, I was the first Irish woman to swim the English Channel, and there'd only been one Irish man before that, and he'd swum it in 1972. So I think the level of naivety and kind of what you didn't know was quite high. Whereas Lake Taupo, it was like, well, I've done these swims before. I kind of know vaguely how it goes, although I hadn't done a long swim for quite a while. Um, I mean, one of the big differences, I think, is the ability to track and the social media and people being able to message you. And, you can stop for a feed and somebody says, oh, Duncan called to say, well done, keep it up. And, that just wasn't possible in the English Channel. I mean, I think it was something like £3 in those days for a ship to shore phone call. And you only did those in emergencies. So there was kind of no messaging. Um, my feeding has actually stayed relatively similar, believe it or not. Definitely has had a few refinements. So I do less solid food than I would have done in the olden days. So, but my mum has always made a leek and potato soup. Um, and I had that in the English Channel, and I still have that on all of my swims, particularly the cold swims. Um, so yeah, a bit more liquid probably now, and a bit less solid food. Than But apart from that, really, I mean, obviously the lake is lovely because you don't have tides and currents, and do you know what I mean? And it's also prettier than the English Channel, which you're not seeing much in the English Channel. I did see the odd large boat or ship, which you didn't see in, in Lake Topo. Um, oh, the sun. That's the big difference. The sun in New Zealand is just lethal on my
Yes.
terribly white Irish skin. So, I mean, I have to layer up big time. And whilst you still have to layer up on things like the English Channel, yeah, the sun was a huge.
It's quite interesting that you've still got the same connections in many respects from 40 years ago. That shows you how special the sport is, right? It's quite a close knit.
Yeah, look,
Close knit.
yeah. So like things like Philip, but I mean, even also like my mum is now 81. She won't mind me telling people that, but my mum was the
Yep.
feeder for all the crew on Gibraltar kind of last year. She's been on a lot of the swims, and she was involved in the swims back in 96, 86 and 87. My dad and brother went on my English Channel boat, and look, I had a really, really rough day on the English Channel. So actually one of the big things I learned on the English Channel was my pilot said to me, Gráinne, are you prepared to go on a day that's not perfect? And I said to him, yes, I am. Now, what I didn't realize is that I was fourth in the list of the tie. I was the fourth swimmer. The other three swimmers had all said that they were waiting for the perfect day. So I went from 4 to 1. Now the fact was it wasn't a perfect day. The first 3 hours were bloody awful, and my poor father and brother like lost the insides of their stomachs, and various meals that they had eaten for quite some days. And meanwhile my mum hadn't gone on the boat. And it was quite interesting. My mum said to me she would never do that again. She was always wants to be on the boat now. Because she said not being on a boat, not being able to see what's going on is actually far more stressful. Um, no, so it's funny they've swapped over. So my dad doesn't like going on the boats after the experience of the English Channel. He has been on other boats with me, but he's in his 80s now. So he says, "Look, I'll do land logistics." So he does land logistics, and so on Topo, my dad did all the kind of driving of cars from start to the finish, and my mum was on the boat. So slight real reversal in terms of the English Channel and Lake Taupo, but still, yeah, same people all involved. And I think, yeah, the community is what keeps you going, isn't it? I mean, it's just a stunning.
Did your whole family immigrate to New Zealand?
Yeah, well, my mother and father did. They emigrated to New Zealand a few years after me. So I came in 98, and then they came in 2006. Haven't got my brother over here yet, but he has been over on holidays and things, and still talk to him really regularly. But
does your brother still swim?
Actually, so he does actually. So he's a big fan of the Lido. So he goes to the Hampstead Heath Lido in London, and he goes all year round. So actually last Christmas I was over and we went together, and like there was frost on the ground and it was 1 degree, and so yeah, and he's got a crew that he goes with that are lovely. So again, he's got that nice community too. And I think he's heading off to Greece to do a 10K swimmers.
I've had the privilege of swimming at the Lido once. And the community there, like you say, it was winter, so there wasn't a lot of people out, but they took me into the little sort of, I don't want to say clubhouse, but bathrooms, I guess, and the chatting and the history with the English Channel linked to the Lido is just incredible, right? I could have sat there for days just chatting to all the old guys there. But my question is, has your brother done Lake Taupo, around Manhattan, Gibraltar Strait?
Well, he has actually done round Manhattan.
Okay.
And we had again quite a good laugh because he had a terrible time when he was going around Manhattan. He had um lightning and people having to abandon the swim, and his safety boat abandoned him and it had to be replaced. So what was quite funny was whenever I did it, and I only did it a couple of years ago, it's quite a long time after him, but I did beat his time by about 10
That's
minutes.
the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
He's way tougher than your brother, right? Yes.
So yes, it was kind of like quick. I had to Google his results and find out if I'd been faster or not. And that, just marginally faster. So that was good fun.
Correct, Nico. Tell us about that Manhattan swim. That's also got a lot of heritage, right? And quite a tricky swim to book and I guess get the logistics correct with, right?
Yeah, look, I think what you've got is the New York Open Water Swimming Association do a fabulous job now of arranging that swim, and they really understand all the tidal flows. It's an incredibly tidal swim. Yeah. I was really fortunate because I applied for a night slot. I think they're less popular, and also I think they like to give the night slots to really experienced swimmers. So I thought, I've probably got a good chance of getting one of those. And look, swimming in at night was spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. I mean, I just loved it. It's a marvelous swim because it's one of the only swims you'll ever do where you actually see progress being made. Do you know what I mean? Because you're kind of like, you're just passing all these buildings. We started about 5:45 at night, and it was light at that point. From kind of Battery Park, and we had to stop for the Staten Island ferry, so that was quite funny. So the ferry, everybody on the ferry's waving at us, and we're waving back, and they're probably thinking, "Oh my God, what idiots!" Then you're going, down, or you're going swimming under all these amazing bridges. So what I did was every time I came to a bridge, I would do some backstroke, and then be able to kind of look up at the bridge. Then we started Battery Park, and you kind of go up the East River and the Harlem, and then you're kind of halfway through, and then you get to the top, and you then come down the Hudson, and the kick that you get down the Hudson's just amazing. I mean, you just fly down the Hudson. Now there's not as much, there's only one bridge, the George Washington Bridge on the Hudson, and it's much kind of much wider. So yeah, that's that. I mean, I just absolutely love that swim. I mean, you're passing all these, iconic landmarks. The lights made it really pretty, and also the lights made it pretty. And the fact it was dark, you probably couldn't see how dirty the water was.
Yes.
I did hit a couple of things in the water, but I couldn't see what they were, so that was probably a good thing.
So the temperature varies quite a lot in New York. What kind of temperature water did you end up swimming in?
Yeah, look, I was quite warm because again, they only do the night swims in the kind of July, kind of, I think, kind of August when it was a bit warmer. So I think it was probably about 24 or something. But yeah, it was I found it very comfortable. I mean, I didn't use any warm drinks in that swim.
That's amazing, because in winter the whole thing's all frozen over or pretty close to it, isn't it?
Yeah, it does shift in temperature quite a lot. So, but look, I think they run a really, really good show there. They're very organized. It's very, very well, very good safety. So I think people apply for a slot and give it a go because it's an iconic swim, and it's really special, really special.
How many people have done that, more or less?
I actually don't know, but I think quite a few, to be honest, because they used to do an annual race. They don't seem to do the race anymore, which is a wise idea because actually you just couldn't predict the weather. And that's when my brother did it. My brother did it as part of the race, and it was just, it was a terrible day. But because everybody's made a commitment, they kind of kept going for quite a while. So, yeah, it's good the way that they organize it now. And I think there's about 50 odd slots a year. So, yeah.
Where do you train?
So look, I'm based in Wellington, and I train mainly in Freiburg Pool, and then also the beach by Freiburg, so Oriental. So we go out to the lighthouse in Wellington and round to Ballina Bay, and sometimes down to Hataitai. So yeah, most of my training is either Freiburg pool or sea. And then sometimes Thorndon pool will now be open for the summer. It's an outdoor pool in Wellington, so we'll do some Ks in there. And then sometimes also the Regional Aquatic Centre, which is in Kilbarney, the big swimming pool there.
Special bunch of open water swimmers in Wellington, right?
Very, very. I mean, it's yeah, everybody just, helps everybody out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, all through all of my training, I've barely swum a stroke on my own. And even things like, when people have wanted to do their training swims, their 4 hour, their 6 hour training swims, people will make sure that there's somebody swimming with you all the time. Or, and then what was nice for me is when Rebecca Hollingsworth was doing her training swims for the English Channel and the North Channel, I said, right, well, I'll be crew on the beach, so, we bring down a table, we set up the camp chairs, we've got the food, we're going down and doing the feeds for everybody. So everybody kind of mucks in and takes their turn at supporting, and then, takes their turn at being kind of the key focus of support. Yeah, and that's really good, really good.
Okay.
So I'm kind of interested. You had quite a big break between, a sort of an early career and a later career. What did you find sort of different, basically in yourself, or maybe even in the organization? I don't know. Was the organization of swims kind of the same as it used to be, or?
So like the organization of swims is the swims I did when I was younger in Ireland, and people took safety really careful, they really thought about it. So they were very safety focused. So, what you just didn't have was the same numbers. We would do races and there would be 10 or 20 people. Now if you look at like the Auckland Harbour swim, like 1,500 people. So just the volume of people swimming is completely different. And I think the all the research as well in terms of open water swimming and good for your health and all that sort of stuff. There's much more interest in open water swimming. One of the things obviously I noticed is I came back into it and I wasn't as young. So my recovery rate is not what it was when I was, in my kind of teens and 20s. I think you do have to train a bit differently in terms of, you just have to be more careful around that recovery so that you don't get injured. So I think probably, far more people doing it. I think the other piece is much more information on what good training can look like and what good nutrition looks like. So, there's much more research into nutrition now for endurance sports than there was back in like 1987 whenever I was doing, the English Channel.
1987 doesn't seem like that long ago, right?
True. All depends how old you are.
What does your sort of average, I guess, training load look like when you're training for a crossing?
So what I have now is I really feel I've got my kind of training sorted in some ways. So I mean, Tupper was an interesting experience for me because I hadn't done anything for quite a long time. So that was 2021. And I went for the kind of well, maybe not traditional, but that kind of 3 weeks heavy, 1 week light.
Yep.
And then, gradually stepping it up. What I actually found is 3 weeks heavy at the top of heavy. So kind of, let's say 40 kilometers a week, for 3 weeks, I just couldn't do. I just fell apart. So my body said, So now what I do is I do 2 weeks heavy, 1 week light, 2 weeks heavy, 1 week light.
Yep.
And I'm very good at listening to my body. I don't actually wear a watch. And I've kind of resisted getting, the technology because I feel that I've got pretty good understanding of what I feel like. I'm getting the data anyway in terms of, are you swimming fast? Are you feeling good? Do you need to sleep more? Do you need to back off a day? Can you go a bit more? So I kind of quite like the fact that I don't have the watch because I just worry that I'll start getting data that kind of maybe makes me less connected to, you know, how I'm actually feeling.
Mm.
So what I do is I write out a 20-week program in terms of 20 weeks to the big swim. And then I, you know, kind of, again, as I say, do the 2 weeks, 2 weeks heavy, 1 week light, and then work that up through the 20 weeks, starting from a base of about probably 15 Ks a week. And then I don't go over 40 Ks a week. I just can't. So my heavy weeks will be kind of 35 to 40.
Yeah. And do you do like any sort of gym work or stretching or anything in between?
Yeah, look, I find I really, really have to do the stretching. So that's the thing that I'd like to be able to do more time in the gym. But you know, you got to fit in, you know, having a family, having a job, you know, swimming, all the rest of it. So yeah, the swimming, and then the next thing for me is the stretching, because I've never been very flexible actually. Even when I was a young competitive pool swimmer, I was, you know, when we were doing stretching, I was always the one the coach was like seriously going, is that as far as you can go? You know, you need to work on this. So yeah, so a couple of yoga classes a week. I try to get, actually Freiburg's great because there's a gym there as well. Now what I am hoping is this, what I've found actually since 2021 is like I've kind of tweaked one thing every season. And I think you can focus on improving one thing, but you can't, well, I find maybe it's just me. I can focus on improving one thing, but not maybe improving three things, you know, but each season I've gone, right, okay, let's focus on getting the training right. Next season, let's focus on getting the stretching right. Next season, let's focus on getting the nutrition right. So I am at this stage actually about to start some gym work for the coming season, because I do feel I probably need a couple of strength classes. So I will try to do that coming up to Christmas, because I won't, you know, my first big swim is going to be at the end of March next year. So I can probably spend a bit less time swimming at the minute, a bit more time in the gym, and then I'll cut the gym down probably as I get the Ks up.
What's
Hello, swimmers. I'm Shannon Keegan, US-based founder of Intrepid Water and host of the podcast Stories from the Water. My friends at Swimscape in Auckland, New Zealand, are the proud ambassadors of Auckland's most iconic ocean marathon swim, the 20 kilometers around Rangitoto Volcano in the Hauraki Gulf. This is a very achievable marathon swim that, like all long-distance swims, will live in your memories forever. I don't know about you, but I've got this swim on my bucket list for when I get to visit the beautiful land of the Kiwi. Jump on swimscape.co.nz or email info@swimscape.co.nz to book your slot. See you in the water.
What's the goal? I mean, so I know you enjoy obviously long swims, but like, is there a cap? So, for example, are you wanting to try and see how long you can go? There's a couple of guys, for example, that Brian Gray, for example, is experimenting with that whole 24-hour and more scenario. You know, is there a plan?
No, I've no desire to you know, swim all day and all night. It's even like I've never done a double. I just don't understand why anybody wants to turn around and go back. I mean, I have great respect for the people who do, but it's just never been my bag. I've done 6 of the Ocean 7, so obviously want to knock off
Which is the last one?
Yeah. So that's challenging. So hopefully that'll be on July this coming year, so 2026. For me, it's actually all about the adventure. I just love all the adventures, and you know, I think, and the journey, because the journey to do a swim doesn't start when you start in the water of the swim. You know, it starts in the planning and the, you know, the training and, you know, the community, and everybody getting behind you and everybody sharing stories and making connections. Yeah, I just love the adventure. And then, you know, you get friends that come with you on the swims, and that's really special, and family that come with you on the swims. So the other piece is, like, I'm not getting any younger, so I'm 56, and I'm swimming pretty well, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to keep swimming at the level that I've been swimming at for the past few years since 2021. So I kind of do want to max maximize my health and wellness
Yep.
and the opportunities. So, and the other piece, I think, you train really hard for one swim. It means that you've got a good base for some other swims. So I am planning quite a busy schedule for 2026 because, as I say, I just don't think I'm going to get any younger and I'm not going to get any faster. So, things going pretty well health-wise at the minute. So kind of lock in and do a lot. So I've got Derwent River booked in Tasmania at the end of March. I've got 3 swims in
Yep.
Auckland booked with
That's
Duncan.
a busy week. Yes. Cool.
Busy week. Then hopefully Japan in July, and then I've also got a slot for Lake Tahoe. And
Oh, nice. I've heard lots of good things about that swim. Yeah.
yeah, I kind of thought, the west coast of the US is only kind of one flight from New Zealand in terms of, Auckland to kind of LA or San Francisco. So I looked at a few swims around there and I thought, well, actually Lake Tahoe looks pretty spectacular and a bit different. So, I thought, I've just actually heard from them last week that I've got a slot for the 8th of August. Because again,
Very
that's when
nice.
you apply and then you see, then they allocate you a slot
Yeah.
depending on.
How far is Lake Tahoe?
I think it's actually quite far. I think, I think it's, about 32. Now, is it 32 kilometers or 32?
I think it's miles.
Yeah, I think it might be. I'm not quite sure, actually.
Americans don't know what kilometers are.
Yeah.
That's great. So you booked to go and do a swim and you're still not even sure how far you're going to have to go. Yeah.
That's it. I have done slightly more research. Just can't quite remember all the names. Maybe it's good if you don't. Oh, it's actually, no, I've just looked it up. It's 34 kilometers, 21.
Oh, there you go. That's a piece of cake for you.
Close. It's pretty close.
Yeah. Oh, nice, man.
So, any preference to lake swimming or sort of freshwater versus seawater?
No, I like both. I mean, I have a history of at one point my nickname was the jellyfish magnet. I have been stung by more jellyfish than I care to, talk about really in some ways. So, it was quite interesting because I looked at Monterey Bay and I looked at Lake Tahoe and I thought, actually, do you know what? I've been stung by enough jellyfish in my lifetime. I'm going to go for Lake Tahoe as a lake swim. So I like both for different reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the sea and that you a level of unpredictability. You're not quite sure what kind of day you're going to get. I mean, the same on a lake, but it's just the variation on lakes I tend to find is less because you don't have the tides
Yeah.
to deal with. So no, look, I like to do a mix actually. I think both the sea and the lake have their charms.
Yes.
Probably the lakes have slightly less downside than the sea swims. Less jellyfish, less dangerous sea life and such like. So yeah.
Yeah. So, would you be the first Irish woman to complete the Ocean 7?
Yeah. I at the moment I would be if I get on with it and get it done relatively.
And at the risk of being political, are you Irish or are you Kiwi?
Well, look, I always swim under the Irish flag actually,
Okay.
and I think it's because I've been capped for Ireland, and I that's where I cut my teeth in terms of open water swimming. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I call myself an Irish Kiwi. I mean, I'm a New Zealand citizen, but
Yes.
I swim under the Irish flag. And the other thing that I will be, she says positively, so let's have a positive frame of mind. When I get Japan done, I'll actually be the person that it's taken the longest in the world to do the Ocean 7.
Oh, wow.
In terms of this, like,
Because obviously English Channel was
1987.
Yeah.
So I'll be about 39 years. And actually there's a Triple Crown, which is Catalina, Manhattan, and the English Channel. And I'm the second longest person. So actually, there's a guy who is a couple of months longer than me between the first swim and the last swim. So
That's cool.
So yeah, so that'll be quite cool. Yeah,
That's very cool.
And I think it'll take when I get Japan done, it's going to take. I don't think that record is really going to ever be broken because I don't think it's going to take anybody else 40 years to do that.
Oh, you'll be surprised, right? But so I came across a guy by the name of Otto Tanning in South Africa many years ago. And Otto Tanning was Lewis Pugh's sort of mentor and training partner. And Otto did the English Channel. I think he was 54 or 53 years old, something like that. And him and Lewis Pugh sort of, from what I understand, went together. And they swam like a week apart or a couple of weeks apart, or whatever the case might be. Now, Otto went back to the English Channel a couple of years ago and became the oldest swimmer to finish the English Channel at like 74 years. So there's another goal for you. But to end the story, in the same season that Otto Tanning became the oldest English Channel swimmer, somebody pupped him, and he was like a month older than him. And he was like, bugger this. And he went back again and he did it again. So he's done 3 English Channels. And he is now still officially the oldest person to have completed it. So maybe put that on your bucket list.
Yeah.
That'll give you another 20 years of goals.
Yeah, I am thinking of going back to the English Channel in 2027 because that would be 40 years after I swam it, and then see if I can swim it again. So I had emailed Mike Oram, but I hadn't heard anything from him, so I might have to email his son Lance and see, and try and get a slot for 2027. So yeah, that was a thought. And I have a mate, a very good friend of mine, who's 60 at about the same time, and then obviously my brother still, swimming, and his crew would be very happy to come and be boat crew for me.
Yes.
So yeah, so that could be an option. So 40 years later, go back. So, yeah.
Well, go.
So I was just thinking, you've got such a long career. It's pretty amazing. Have you ever really struggled with injuries, or have your training seems to be very sensible, and you said that you can really listen to your body well. So have you managed that fairly well, or have you had ups and downs?
No, look, I have managed it fairly well. When I was really young, I did have a shoulder problem, kind of that 16, 17, which I got treatment for, and I just actually kind of ultrasound and anti-inflammatories, and that actually worked quite well. It was actually just about getting the right tablet, the right anti-inflammatory, which worked really well actually for me, and it's never been a problem since actually. Now I did get a little bit injured on the Lake Taupo swim in 2021, and that was just because I came at that quite quickly. So I only decided to do that kind of in the December, and I swam at it on the 1st of April the next year, and I was coming off a relatively low base. So and actually what I discovered is that I on my technique, as I was entering the water, I was kind of putting quite a lot of pressure through a single point in my shoulder, just the way my technique was. So we just tweaked that a bit, and I have been actually fine ever since. And I have, as long as I do a bit of that stretching and keep the mobility up, I tend to find I've been very fortunate, very limited injuries. And again, I think, that listening to your body and making sure you take the time to recover and not pushing it. At the end of the day, open water swimming, it is a long game, and that means you do need to, not go rip shit and kind of bust. So yeah, look, I've been very fortunate to be relatively, touch wood, injury free.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a number of people that I swim with that are dealing with injuries at the moment. They probably need to take some lessons from you in terms of being a little bit more sensible. Hey, Duncan.
Yes.
And sometimes less is more, as they say.
I'm very good at the less. that's no issue. Mine wasn't so much an overuse injury, but I took a bit of a fall and I fractured my clavicle and I have an inflamed bursa. And I've never had that issue before. And I now realize that an inflamed bursa takes a really long time to recover. And it's just super frustrating. So I did breaststroke today for 3Ks in the ocean, which was very frustrating.
Yeah. Well, luckily I've never fallen and broken anything. I haven't had any broken bones, so that probably helps from the injuries as well.
Yeah, but I do go to gym once a week. I come to Jim's house once a week for a podcast.
And I hear you get quite nice coffee there as well.
Yes, exactly. How many children do you have?
I've got 4 kids, so 21 to 15.
Yep.
Yeah.
And any swimmers in the mix there?
Yeah, the eldest has done a little bit. She's so she came down and did the Ruby with me a couple of years ago.
Yes.
So she did the 5K, I did the 10K, and she played a bit of water polo and stuff. So but no open water swimmers in the making, it would appear at the moment.
Yep.
I mean, they can all swim, but yeah, no, nobody is racing to follow in mum's footsteps. But they do seem to enjoy going on the boat. So, kids have been on a number of my swims, and actually what was really nice when I did Catalina, the Catalina boats are really quite big, and my youngest was I think 14 at the time, but and I think they had an age thing of 16, but I talked to them, and because like their dad was on the boat and I was swimming, they were like, yeah, no, they can come on the boat too. So that was really nice because like everybody got to come on that boat, whereas on other boats it's just been maybe 1 or 2 of the kids or one of the kids, or mainly my mum. So yeah, she's
How old is your mum now?
she's 81, so yeah, she's and so she did the Gibraltar swim with us. There was 4 of us did that because I was lucky enough to get a Gibraltar slot, and I know how difficult it is to get a Gibraltar slot. So I actually reached out to Paul Felto in New Plymouth and asked him if he wanted to come, and then there's a Kiwi called Callum Eade, who's currently based in Brisbane but was in Singapore at the time. I reached out to him.
Yes.
I also reached out to Caitlin to see if she wanted, because she had already done Gibraltar, but she had gone with a group that were really slow. So she had talked about wanting to come back and maybe do a faster time, but she wasn't available. So then I reached out to actually Marcia Cleveland, who I knew needed a slot. So she's from the States. But Marcia actually had the slot after me. So she put me in touch with this wonderful lady called Laurie King. So we were all there for 10 days. Actually, we all rented a house. We all stayed together. My mum and dad were over because actually Laurie, Paul and Callum all came on their own. So my mum and dad and my youngest actually went to Anna. So yeah, my dad made lots of lovely meals. He's a really good cook now. Since he got retired, he's learned to cook really well. Yeah, and then my mum fed all 4 swimmers, so that was pretty exciting.
That's special moments, eh?
Yeah. No, and I mean that's what I love. It's about the adventure, and a lot of it's about all the stuff around the swim. You know, we had to wait 10 days because the wind was too high, and it was relatively stressful. But we all kind of kept each other calm. We all enjoyed each other's company. But you know, you definitely build a bond and an understanding about people over those 10 days. And I mean, I was delighted we got away on the last day. We got away on the very last day possible because I think it would have been a bit gutting to have spent all this time together and then not got away. But actually getting to do the swim made it really special. And then it was funny because unbeknownst to us, I was on the same flight from London to Singapore as Callum. And then I was on the same flight from Singapore to Auckland as Paul Felto. So we all ended up meeting up at Heathrow Airport. And actually, I came off the tube, and I was feeling a bit down because we'd done the swim, and you know, then I'd flown to the UK quickly to see some family, and I only had a day to do that because we'd ended up being so waiting in Spain for so long. And I was feeling a bit down because it was like, oh, I've seen the family now and I'm heading back, and came out of the underground gates, and the next thing is there's Calamide walking past. He's coming off another tube, and it was like, oh hi, and then we checked in together and traveled together, and it was really lovely, really special time. So
it's interesting you mentioned. I mean, I know you've said you're a bit down because you were leaving the family, but there's some swimmers that definitely have a down after a big swim. And there's other swimmers that don't seem to be affected as much by it, but it's, how does that affect you?
Yeah, I think I definitely think once you have done a big swim, and particularly when you've done maybe the last swim of the season, because I think things like I did Catalina, and then actually I did Manhattan about 8 days afterwards. And then, before Catalina, I'd done Hawaii. So I did Hawaii in May, I did Catalina in July. And then you get to Manhattan, you kind of get to the end of the season. And I think, there is a kind of, there's kind of, well, yeah, because you've had that focus, and also you've had that discipline, and you've had that routine. And so I think actually for me, there's usually a couple of weeks of like, yeah, this is great, not having to, train so much and have a couple of wines and, and party and stay up late and watch telly and that kind of stuff. But then I do think, you can have the risk of getting into a bit of a hole. And that's why I quite like to then have at least plan something ahead or start thinking about something. So I find thinking about what might be next, and it doesn't need to be immediate, it could be next season. I find that kind of a helpful way of keeping myself up. But yeah, I do think it is, I mean, I think, and I do think it is a challenge after you've been so focused on something, and it's been maybe such a high that you can have the risk of dipping at some point.
Is there what's happening in Ireland at the moment with open water swimming? Is it going strong?
Oh yeah, it's going gangbusters, absolute gangbusters. There's some amazing Irish open water swimmers. I mean, honestly, like my Facebook feed is just full of open water swimmers, and there's a couple in Ireland. I just don't know how they do it. I mean, they're just swimming like there's a guy called Dave Berry, and he's doing like. I think he must be up to about his 50th open water swim in the year. Do you know what I mean? It's just absolutely stunning.
It's huge.
It is absolutely huge. And like, I'm just thrilled, absolutely thrilled. And you can't look back and but I just think in 1987 I'd nobody to train with. If I was over there, I'd have heaps of people. But I'm just thrilled that so many people have discovered the sport and the benefits of it and the community, and more people are coming into it. But yeah, it's going gangbusters in Ireland, but it's going gangbusters everywhere, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is. So maybe slight detour, because it's a hobby of Jim and myself, other than talking shit, is you obviously enjoy the cold to a degree. Obviously started swimming in the cold, those open water, unheated pools. Is there any sort of tweak of the imagination to come and join us at the next New Zealand Ice Swimming Champs? Try something new?
Yeah, look, I would really like to do that at some point, but it's just I've been pretty focused on the open water, and so also they tend to be in at times when I've got slots for other swims. Do you know what I mean? So I can imagine the Ice Swimming Championships will probably be when I'm in Japan this year.
July.
But yeah, correct. I would be keen at some point. And I loved swimming with my brother in the Lido, and that was truly ice swimming. Yes. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Truly ice swimming. And it is just amazing in terms of how you feel afterwards. I mean, you do get that big adrenaline hit. Yeah. So yeah, I think definitely be very keen, and you'll see me there sometime.
Nice. Maybe last question from me, and then I'll start jabbering. Any advice for like younger swimmers, or potentially even swimmers that used to swim in their youth that are considering coming back? Any type of guidance?
So I think for people who have swum in their youth and are thinking about coming back, for me, it was actually quite tough coming back after I'd had my kind of fourth child. And I remember doing the Auckland Harbour swim. And I think I was something like 1,075th out of 1,452 people. Now I used to be in the world top 10 and I can't get into the top 1,000. And it's because, I wasn't training very much, all the rest. But now a number of people at that swim had swum with me, when I was younger and faster, and they rejoiced at the fact that they had beaten me.
Yes.
And that can actually be quite hard for people who have swum or competed at a senior kind of level to, not be able to, be kind of at the front of the pack anymore. And actually, I had to think about it quite hard. But what I realized was, look, I really loved it and it was really good for me. So actually, I didn't care. I mean, I did slightly care, to be honest. But, I didn't. The caring a bit about how I was swimming versus the enjoyment and what else it was giving me, I was able to kind of rationalize it. But I think, I have talked to a number of people who have said they've found that rationalization really difficult. So what I would say to people who want to get back into it, like, just don't hold yourself up to the standard that you were at when you were younger. And just remember the kind of the passion and the fun and the community and all of the other things. Because, being the best and being fastest, you can't sustain that. But what you will get out of it is, an incredibly positive community, it'll be good for your health, your wellness, and that outweighs the fact that somebody might make fun of the fact that you didn't quite swim as fast as you used to, and maybe they beat you now.
Yes. Cool. Well, I think that's great. Thanks so much for your time, Gráinne. It was great meeting you, even if it was virtual. I'm sure I've probably bumped into you, but just didn't know about it beforehand at a beach series or something. But yeah, it was wonderful hearing your story. I learned so much. Thank you.
No problem. Like, thanks very much. Obviously, nice to chat, Duncan, and it's good to have this chat before we see each other in April.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. Three big swims in 1 week. You're a legend. You're an inspiration to tons of swimmers out there, and we look forward to getting to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I bumped into Roger, so he said he might come and help out.
Yes, he will definitely be there.
Yeah. So that was nice. So yeah,
awesome.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, have a good rest of the weekend, and we shall be back in touch.
Hi, my name is Caitlin O'Reilly. I'm the youngest person to have completed the Ocean 7 Challenge. If this really cool podcast has helped you learn something new, maybe it's introduced you to new swimmers, made you smile, then please take the opportunity to subscribe to Duncan and Jim's channel. I'm sure they would absolutely appreciate all your support. Cheers.
Thanks, Caitlin. Well, as always, you can give us feedback on our Instagram account @cleverdicks or send us an email cleverdicksnz@gmail.com. We'd really appreciate hearing from you. And cheers. We'll speak to you again soon.